Support for Radio Friends comes from OsteoStrong. Improvements in bone density, strength, and power can be achieved by weekly 5-minute no-sweat sessions on their 4-spectrum machines. These isometric robotic machines safely emulate high-impact loading on different parts of the skeletal system, which stimulates activity in bone-building cells. Balance and agility can be improved by 2-minute sessions on vibration plates. Every session is supervised by a trained coach. Learn more on Facebook or call to set up a complimentary wellness assessment and session. Good morning. Welcome to Radio Friends on this Thursday, June the 2nd. We're going to talk about a pretty serious subject today, and I want to introduce you to Ashley Anger Blunt. Good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
And you are Director of Outpatient Services at Burrell Behavioral Health.
Yes, I am.
The topic we're dealing with today is suicide.
Yes.
This is something that many of us don't like to think about, but it is something that occurs on an all too regular basis.
Yes, it does. A lot more than we think.
At Burrell Behavioral Health, you've got a program that's called ONE.
Yes.
What is ONE, and how does it help prevent suicide?
So we have the ONE initiative, which stands for Our Networks Engaged. And so the ONE initiative, it takes one conversation to save a life. So what we're trying to do is talk to our community partners, individuals within the community, and everyone really worldwide to start having conversations and get comfortable about talking about suicide. Suicide's a really uncomfortable subject. People don't like talking about it.
Yeah, and there's been talk that suicides have gone up dramatically recently, right?
They have. It's actually the 10th leading cause of death in adults and the 4th leading cause of death in adolescents, 15 to 19 years old, and it's continuing to rise.
10th leading cause in adults?
Yes.
And the 4th leading cause in adolescents?
Yes.
Why?
It's, a lot of people who do die by suicide end up, they're not in services. They're not connected. It's a hard thing. People go through a lot of different difficulties within life, and sometimes they feel like it's too much and that they're alone.
How do you talk to somebody that you're concerned about that may be considering suicide? First of all, how can you tell if someone has been thinking about suicide?
That's a great question, because sometimes you can tell and sometimes you can't tell. It's almost like a hidden illness. And so when we talk about warning signs, sometimes it's people being isolative who were really outgoing. Sometimes it's, sleeping too much or sleeping too little. Sometimes it's just talking about, things would be better if I wasn't here. And if you're talking with somebody or noticing somebody having some of these signs, it's asking and being with them, hey, are you doing okay? Like, let's really, really talk about this. And not to be afraid to ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Because that opens that door to that conversation of, how do we get you help? What are those next steps to get you help? And have these honest conversations with people who are afraid to maybe tell you that they're thinking about hurting themselves.
But how do you know? Now, a lot of times, some people like to use the guilt factor, and they'll say, oh, yeah, someday if I'm not around, you'll feel sorry, or if I wasn't here, you'll see what it was like without me. How do you know if they're actually thinking about suicide or if they are just saying that to try to make you feel guilty? Because
that's a good question, and I think it comes down to getting comfortable with asking that question. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? And opening that door for that honest conversation, because if they are thinking about it, they may answer that question with yes. And
then what do you do? What if you ask somebody and they say, yeah, I've been thinking about it and I'm thinking of ways to do it. What do you do then?
Say, all right, let's talk about it. Let's get you connected to the resources that we can help you, whether that be calling Burrell and getting connected with one of our services, calling our crisis line, getting connected with a rapid access center, which in our region we will be having this late summer. You can bring someone to Stevens Lake Clinic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week later this summer when that opens up. It's getting connected and being comfortable with those resources. And it is scary being in that seat talking to somebody, and if they say, yes, I am thinking about killing myself and I may do it X, Y, and Z way. Well, let's talk about it. I'm here with you.
If they actually tell you that, isn't that a way that they are reaching out for help?
Yes, it is. They are reaching out to help and say, help me.
Yeah. If somebody actually, if they say it seriously, yes, I have been thinking about it. They're reaching out saying, can you help me in some way because I'm desperate?
Exactly. And that's exactly what this ONE initiative is doing, to help have those conversations and get someone connected to the resources that they need to help them.
What should you do at that point? Do you feel it's safe to leave that person alone? How do you? I would imagine that that's a lot of weight on your shoulder. Then, if somebody tells you, "Yeah, I'm thinking about killing myself," what do you say? No, I don't think that's a good idea, and then get up and walk away, or do you stay with that person?
Oh, stay with that person. Be with that person in that moment and get connected. You can call 911. You can call the hospital. You can call our crisis lines. You can look on our resources. But be with the person.
You would call 911?
They could get you connected to a resource if you needed it, whether it be a crisis line or connecting if you need to take another step further. But crisis lines are a really good option as well.
If somebody listening is interested in the ONE program, what do they need to do to sign up or to learn more about it?
Well, that's a great question. So we have, if you go to burrellcenter.com/ONE, you'll get information on our ONE program. We have a pamphlet right here, and it gives you a lot of information on the ONE program on how to save a life. What we ask for you to do is that commit yourself to 4 honest conversations about suicide. So asking someone how you're doing, really asking how they're doing. 3, sharing 3 resources about suicide prevention or education around suicide on social media or with friends, however you like to share your news. 2, participating in 2 different trainings or surveys that are free to you through Burrell. And then 1, signing the ONE pledge that says, hey, I'm committed to this. I'm committed to having conversations about suicide and saving lives, because it really does take one conversation with somebody to save a life.
We're almost out of time. But are there, besides being withdrawn, changing the way you normally act, is there anything else that sticks out when you're talking or looking at someone that says this person may be contemplating suicide?
I think that's a great question, and a lot of it might be, if you know the person, something's just a little off. When you talk to people, they're just not themselves, or they're losing interest, or there's just something a little different, and I'm not really sure how to put my finger on it, but it's given me enough to say, I think I need to ask them if they're okay.
If you want more information on this, you can give them a call at Burrell. Is that 800 number? That's 800-395-2132.
That would be correct.
Okay, 800-395-2132. It's nothing to fool around with, okay? Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, out of time. Bye-bye.